Life has a funny way of kicking you when you least expect it. One moment you think you've got everything figured out, career, love, family, and the next. Well, let's just say the universe decides to spice things up a little. Hi, I'm Emma Harper. 31 years old, born and raised in Seattle, Washington. I work as a corporate event planner, 10 years of experience wrangling bridezillas, CEOs, and sometimes both in one person. You could say I know how to handle chaos. Or so I thought. Until recently, my life looked picture perfect on the outside. Dream job downtown condo with a killer view of Puget Sound and an engagement ring from Nathan, the man everyone called Seattle's most eligible bachelor. Charming, successful, always the guy who remembered your birthday and your dog's name. I used to catch strangers on the street giving us that, wow, they must have it all look. Yeah, if only they knew. Then there was my sister, Ashley. Older by 4 years, head of HR at a tech startup, always dressed like she was on the cover of a fashion mag. We'd never been close, not since high school. The usual sister stuff jealousy competition. Some childhood wounds that never really healed. But still, she was blood. And despite our ups and downs, I wanted her in my wedding party. Maybe. I secretly hoped the wedding would bring us closer. My best friend Rachel thought I was crazy for that. We'd been friends since our college days at UW. She's the kind of ride or die friend who'll tell you when your lipstick shade is off and when your fiancé might not be as perfect as he seems. You sure about Ashley? She'd asked one night over margaritas. I mean, the girl has never liked playing second fiddle to you. I just laughed. We're adults now. Besides Nathan and I, solid as a rock. Famous last words, huh? Our engagement had been a whirlwind. Nathan proposed during a weekend getaway to Whistler picture snow-capped mountains, a cozy lodge, and champagne on ice. The kind of moment you see in Hallmark movies. I posted the photo naturally. Hundreds of likes, dozens of comments. So happy for you two. Couple goals. When's the big day? We set the date June 12th. Summer wedding, waterfront venue, string quartet, the works. Nathan insisted on taking care of a lot of the arrangements to give you a break, he said. Honestly, I was grateful. My job kept me busy enough. But looking back, that's when the little things started. Moments I brushed off at the time, Nathan spending more evenings working late. Texts he'd tilt his phone away to read. Ashley dropping by the condo more often than usual, always with some excuse. Then came that one night. The night everything started to unravel. Nathan had left his phone on the kitchen counter while he jumped in the shower. Totally normal, right? I wasn't snooping. Honestly, I just wanted to check the time, but as I picked it up, a notification lit the screen. Same time Friday, can't stop thinking about last time. My stomach dropped. There was only one A in his life. I put the phone down like it burned me. For a moment, I told myself, there's probably an explanation. I'm overreacting. Ashley could be texting about anything. But deep down, something ugly was waking up. A quiet voice I didn't want to hear. I didn't confront Nathan then. I couldn't. I needed to be sure. That's when I called Rachel. Rach, something's off. I think something's going on between Nathan and Ashley. There was a beat of silence. Then her voice calm but firm. Okay, breathe. We're going to find out. Together. And just like that, the first domino tipped over. Rachel came over the very next night, a 6-pack of IPA in one hand and her laptop in the other because that's the kind of best friend she is. All right, she said, plopping down on my couch. Let's start with the obvious, his phone. You think he's hiding more? I hesitated. The thought of snooping made my skin crawl. It's locked. Face ID. Rachel gave me a sly grin. Girl, you're his fiancé. I'm sure you've got plenty of photos of him. Just saying. I stared at her. You're evil. Resourceful, she corrected, cracking open a beer. I'm not proud of what we did next. But desperate times, right? Using a photo of Nathan where he was looking straight at the camera, a selfie I'd snapped on a hike last month, we managed to unlock his phone. My heart pounded so hard I could barely think straight. Rachel held my hand. Steady, she whispered. We'll take it slow. Messages first. Nothing obvious, he was careful. No saved text from Ashley. But then Rachel opened the archived photos. That's when we found it a screenshot of a hotel reservation. Friday night, under her name. I felt the room spin. Rachel squeezed my shoulder. We don't jump to conclusions yet. Could still be work, right? But we both knew better. Still, for all my suspicion, I didn't want to make accusations without proof. Concrete proof, the kind that no one, not Nathan, not Ashley, could weasel out of. That's when Rachel suggested something I never thought I'd agree to. We need more eyes, she said. I know a guy. My cousin Jeremy, he's an IT whiz, sets up security cams for half the tech bros in this city. I blinked at her. You want me to spy? Rachel raised a brow. Emma, do you really want to stand at that altar in a white dress without knowing the truth? Touché. I gave Jeremy a call. He came by the next day with a small black bag that looked straight out of a spy movie. Discreet as hell, he assured me. Setting up 2 tiny cameras, one in the living room bookshelf, another cleverly hidden in the spare room where Nathan sometimes worked late. I felt sick about it, but also a strange sense of power. Meanwhile, I kept up appearances, smiling through wedding dress fittings, posting cute countdown to I do updates on Instagram. Ashley, of course, played the doting sister, sending me links to wedding shoes and honeymoon ideas. Her texts oozed sisterly love. The hypocrisy made my stomach churn. A week passed, then another, nothing too suspicious until Thursday night. Nathan had just left, claiming a late client meeting. I sat with Rachel watching the cam feed on my laptop. The clock ticked past 10. I was about to give up when the door opened. In walked Ashley. I froze. There she was, bold as day, slipping off her heels and glancing around. A moment later, Nathan appeared. He cupped her face and kissed her deeply. No hesitation. I couldn't breathe. Rachel swore under her breath, "Oh my God, Emma!" It was worse than I imagined. They didn't just kiss, they laughed, whispered, curled up together on my couch like they'd done this 100 times before. But the real kicker came a few minutes later when Ashley leaned in and whispered. The mic barely caught it. "Mom thinks we should tell her after the wedding. Says it's better that way." I went cold. Rachel stared at me wide-eyed. "Your mom?" "Knows." I couldn't speak, couldn't even move. It wasn't just betrayal from Nathan or Ashley. Now, my own mother. A hot wave of fury burned through me, but no, not yet. I swallowed it down. I wouldn't scream, wouldn't storm in. If my mother wanted this done after the wedding, fine, I'd give them the wedding. And then I'd give them something none of them would ever forget. The next morning, I woke up on Rachel's couch. I hadn't slept much, my head still buzzing with that sickening scene from the night before. Ashley's smug smile, Nathan's arms around her. And worst of all, Mom thinks we should tell her after the wedding. Those words echoed in my skull like a taunt. Rachel handed me coffee. "You okay?" she asked gently. "Define okay," I croaked. She sat down next to me. "Look, you've got 2 options. Confront them now and blow everything up, or wait and make this count." I stared into my mug. The thought of facing Nathan, of pretending for weeks, made me want to hurl. But at the same time, a small, dangerous voice inside me whispered, "They want this fake fairy tale wedding fine. I'll let them have it. And I'll write the ending myself." I looked up at Rachel. "I need your help." "You've got it. First thing first, gather more proof. The camera clips were good, but I wanted ironclad evidence. Conversations, faces, a story no one could spin. Jeremy agreed to adjust the cameras for better audio pickup and added a motion-triggered cloud backup in case Nathan or Ashley got nosy. Meanwhile, I started paying attention, really paying attention to Mom. I invited her to lunch that weekend, acting chipper as ever. "So how's everything coming along?" she asked brightly, dabbing her mouth with a napkin. "Oh, wonderful," I lied through my teeth. "Nathan's been so helpful, and Ashley's been a lifesaver." Mom gave me a small, tight smile. "I'm glad. He's such a good man." There was a flicker in her eyes just for a second. Guilt and worry. My gut clenched. She knew, maybe not every detail, but enough. Why, though? Why would my own mother stand by knowing her daughter's fiancé was cheating with her other daughter? What twisted logic had her swallowing that secret? I didn't have answers, yet. In the meantime, I kept up the charade, bridal shower, cake tasting, engagement photos. Nathan was the picture of attentive fiancé. Ashley practically glowed every time we were together, like she knew something I didn't. At night, Rachel and I would review the latest footage. More kisses, more whispered plans. And one evening, another bombshell, Ashley. She'll be devastated, of course. But Mom's right, better after, once everything's official. Nathan, yeah. Besides that, if we tell her now, think of the scene she'd make. This way, no mess. No mess. No mess. I almost laughed, except there was nothing funny about it. Through it all, Rachel was my rock. They think they're playing chess, she said. But you're about to checkmate them. By week 3, my plan was forming. I wouldn't just confront them. No, that was too easy, too small. They wanted the perfect wedding day, the fairy tale. I'd give it to them, right up until the last moment. I pulled Jeremy aside. I need one more thing, I told him. He grinned. You're thinking video. Exactly. And not just for me, for every guest to see. He nodded. Consider it done. We rigged it so the main projector at the venue, originally set to show a sweet engagement montage, would instead play a different kind of highlight reel. Carefully edited, crystal clear clips of Nathan and Ashley, their voices, their faces, their betrayal. Rachel helped me script the whole thing, opening title. For those who truly love a good love story. Here's one for the ages. We spliced in shots of the wedding invites, the dress fittings, and intercut them with footage of Nathan and Ashley tangled up together. Every loving word they'd spoken behind my back. The last scene, Ashley's whispered, "Better after the wedding. No mess." Perfect. By the time the big day arrived, I was wired tighter than piano strings, but outwardly smiling, gracious, glowing bride. Nathan looked at me that morning, eyes soft. "You're stunning," he murmured. I managed a smile. "Thank you." Ashley breezed in, all hugs and cheer. "I'm so happy for you, Em." "So am I, sis. So am I." And my mother quiet, watchful, like she knew a storm was coming but didn't know how close it was. I glanced at Rachel. She gave me the smallest nod. Everything was in place. Let the show begin. The morning of the wedding was an eerie sort of calm. You know that tense silence right before a thunderstorm breaks. That was the vibe in the bridal suite at the Edgewater Hotel. I sat in the makeup chair, champagne flute in hand, while the makeup artist worked her magic. My reflection stared back at me from the mirror, flawless skin, soft curls, a glittering white dress. A bride ready to walk down the aisle. If only they knew. Ashley flitted in and out of the room, perfect as ever in her mauve bridesmaid gown, laughing with the other girls. Every time she caught my eye, there was a smug little glint in hers, as if she'd won some secret prize. "You excited, sis?" she chirped, curling a strand of my hair between her fingers. I looked up at her through the mirror. More than you know. Rachel, seated in the corner, pretended to scroll through her phone, but her eyes flicked toward me, a knowing glance. Meanwhile, Nathan was with his groomsmen downstairs. From what the planner texted me, he was in great spirits, cracking jokes, sipping whiskey. The picture of a man about to marry the love of his life. It would almost be funny if it weren't so pathetic. As the guests started to arrive, I moved through the motions, posing for photos, laughing with the wedding party, hugging relatives. My mother arrived late, her expression tight, her posture stiff as a board. "Emma," she said quietly when no one else was around, "you don't have to go through with this if you're nervous." Nervous, I almost laughed in her face, but I kept my voice sweet. "Why would I be nervous, Mom? Today's going to be unforgettable." She looked like she wanted to say more, but bit her lip and walked away. Rachel came up behind me. "Everything's ready," she murmured. Jeremy double-checked the AV setup. "The video will roll right after your father's speech." Perfect. Because here's the thing about weddings. There's always that sweet moment after the meal, after the toasts, when the lights dim and the room goes quiet. Everyone's attention on the screen. It's the emotional highlight of the night. Nathan wanted a cute engagement montage. Instead, he and everyone else were about to get a front row seat to the ugliest parts of our so-called love story. The ceremony itself was almost surreal. I walked down the aisle on my father's arm, heart pounding, but my face serene. Nathan looked at me with adoration, or what he thought was adoration. The vows were exchanged, the ring slipped on, and when the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," I let him. Why not let them think they'd won? Dinner passed in a blur of chatter and clinking glasses. Then my father stood tapping his champagne flute. "If I may," he said, voice booming, "I'd like to say a few words before we watch a little something the bride prepared for us all." And just like that, it was time. The lights dimmed. Conversations hushed. I caught Rachel's eye across the room. She gave me a tiny thumbs up. On the screen, the words appeared, "For those who truly love a good love story." Here's one for the ages. Soft piano music started to play the same piece Nathan and I had picked for the first dance. The first clips were innocent enough, a montage of our engagement photos, the proposal dress shopping. A few guests chuckled. Ashley beamed. Nathan squeezed my hand. Then, the shift. The music slowed, faded. Cut to Nathan, arms around Ashley on my couch. Gasps rippled through the room. Cut to Ashley whispering, "Mom thinks we should tell her after the wedding. Says it's better that way." Someone audibly choked. My aunt clutched her pearls. Nathan's face went pale. His hand dropped from mine. And then the clincher, Ashley, giggling in Nathan's arms, saying, "No mess, right? She'll never know until it's too late." The room erupted. I rose slowly, facing the crowd, my voice calm, steady. "Well, I said I guess now you all know. I want to thank you for coming and for witnessing the real story behind today's festivities." Ashley leapt up, face red. "Emma, this isn't—" But no one was listening to her anymore. The damage was done, and we were only getting started. For a few seconds, the kind that stretch out endlessly, the ballroom was dead silent, except for the soft hum of the projector winding down. Then came the chaos. Guests murmured, gasped, some outright shouted. The perfectly curated illusion of our wedding had shattered in one brutal, undeniable moment. Nathan looked like he'd been punched. His mouth opened and closed, no words coming out. He stood frozen at the head table, pale and sweating. Ashley, oh, she reacted exactly as I expected, flaring up with righteous outrage. "This is fake. You edited this, Emma. You're insane," she screamed across the room. Several heads turned her way with cold, skeptical stares. No one was buying it. Rachel rose from her seat and calmly walked over to me. "Well done," she whispered. "Better than Netflix." I almost smiled, but I wasn't finished. Not yet. I stepped forward, voice carrying over the stunned crowd. "For those of you wondering, yes, this is real. These were taken in my own home. While I was planning this wedding." A fresh wave of gasps. "And before anyone asks—" I glanced at my mother seated stiffly at her table, her hands clenched around her wine glass. Yes, my mother was aware. Now the room really came alive. Some guests turned to glare at her, others whispering furiously. My mother, to her credit, remained eerily composed, but her face was pale as chalk. Nathan finally found his voice, stammering, "Emma, please. Can we just talk?" "Oh, we're past that," I cut him off smoothly, "but by all means, talk to your new fiancé." Ashley's mouth dropped open. "She's lying." From across the room, someone called out. The video didn't look like a lie. That broke the tension, and suddenly everyone was talking at once. Aunts, uncles, cousins, old friends, the entire room buzzing like a hive of furious bees. And right then, right when I thought the night couldn't possibly twist any further, another voice rang out. A calm, clear voice from the back of the room. "She's not lying." Everyone turned. It was Jeremy, Rachel's cousin, our tech wizard. He'd stayed behind near the AV booth just in case. "I'm the one who helped set this up," he said, stepping forward. Those were unedited recordings, time-stamped, backed up, verified. He pulled out his phone, waving it, in case anyone wants to double-check. Boom! Ashley's face crumpled. Nathan sagged in his seat, defeated. But the real shock came next from my mother. Suddenly she rose, voice trembling but loud. "Stop this, it's all gone too far." All eyes locked on her. She pointed a shaking finger, not at Nathan, not at Ashley, but at me. You think you're so righteous, Emma," she hissed, "but you don't know everything." My breath caught. What did that mean? She whirled on Ashley. "You promised we were supposed to keep this quiet." "Until after—" Now even Ashley looked confused. "Mom, what are you talking about?" A cold dread crept over me. Rachel touched my arm. "Emma, there's something more here." I swallowed hard, trying to stay composed. "Why don't you tell us, Mother?" I said, voice icy. "Since the truth seems to be spilling out tonight." The room went pin-drop silent again. My mother opened her mouth, but no words came out. Tears welled in her eyes. And in that silence, something clicked. This wasn't just about a petty affair. There was another layer, something deeper. I glanced at Rachel, her eyes sharp with understanding. "Emma," she whispered, "I think your mom's been covering more than an affair." I gritted my teeth. "Then it looks like this wedding isn't over yet." Because one thing was certain, I wasn't walking away without knowing everything. The ballroom had turned into a powder keg. You could feel the tension in the air, a room full of relatives, friends, co-workers, and business contacts who'd come expecting a perfect wedding, and instead stumbled into the juiciest scandal Seattle had seen in years. But my eyes were locked on my mother. She stood rigid, her lips trembling, hands clenched tight around her clutch. Her earlier composure was unraveling fast. Ashley hovered beside her, now confused and pale. Nathan sat slumped at the head table, looking like a man awaiting execution. Rachel leaned in and whispered, "Push her. She's about to break." I took a slow breath, straightened my spine, and spoke clearly enough for the whole room to hear. "Mother, since you were so determined to stop this, why don't you explain what exactly you've been hiding and why you were willing to let me marry a man who's been sleeping with my sister?" A collective murmur rippled through the crowd. My mother's mouth opened, then closed. Her gaze darted wildly around the room, searching for what? A lifeline. An exit. But there was nowhere to run. Not now. Finally, her shoulders sagged. In a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "It wasn't supposed to be this way." I tilted my head. "Wasn't supposed to be what way?" She shook her head miserably. I thought it was better to let it happen. Keep the peace." "Peace," Rachel said, under her breath beside me. "She let them destroy your life for peace." But Mom wasn't finished. Her voice rose slightly enough to carry. "You don't understand, Emma," she said, voice shaking. "It wasn't just about you and Nathan. It's about your father's deal." That hit me like a slap. My father's deal. She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks now. "Your father's company. It was on the verge of collapse last year. Nathan's father saved it, injected millions. And in return," her voice cracked, "there was an understanding." The room gasped again. I stared at her, shock flooding me. An understanding that I would marry Nathan. She nodded helplessly. "It was never about love. It was business. We couldn't afford a scandal. Not with your father's company still on the line." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So all this time, all the praise and the perfect couple charade, it wasn't just my illusion. It was part of some sick corporate arrangement. And Ashley, did she know? I turned sharply toward her. "Did you know about this?" I asked, my voice cold. Ashley shook her head, tears streaking her mascara. No, Emma, I swear. I didn't know about any deal." But I saw the flicker of guilt in her eyes. Maybe she hadn't known all of it. But she'd known enough. The crowd was now in full uproar, old family friends whispering furiously, guests rising from their chairs, some already heading for the exits. The wedding was officially over, and the fallout was just beginning. Rachel squeezed my hand. "We need to get out of here," she murmured. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I turned back to the room, my voice calm but cutting. "Well, I suppose the wedding is off. As for the rest, I'll let the lawyers handle it." And with that, I walked off the stage, Rachel at my side, leaving behind a stunned, buzzing ballroom. As we exited through the service hallway, I heard a loud commotion behind us, Nathan shouting after me, my mother sobbing, Ashley pleading with guests. Rachel grinned. "Damn, girl, that was legendary." I let out a shaky breath. The adrenaline was wearing off and my knees felt weak. "Let's just get out of here," I whispered. But deep inside, I knew this wasn't over. Because someone, maybe more than one, someone had been pulling the strings all along. And I was going to find out who. The next 48 hours were surreal. One minute I was the bride-to-be, the next the main character in a citywide scandal. By Monday morning, my phone was blowing up. Cousins, coworkers, even old classmates I hadn't spoken to in years, all texting variations of, "OMG, is it true? I can't believe what happened. You're so brave." Apparently word had spread like wildfire, and thanks to some eager wedding guest with an iPhone, a video snippet of that moment, the confrontation, the video reveal, the gasps, was already making rounds online. Not viral, but enough that I couldn't walk into a coffee shop without overhearing whispers. It should have felt humiliating, but honestly, I felt strangely liberated. The truth was out. The mask was off. I wasn't the clueless bride anymore. But one thing kept gnawing at me, the sense that there was more to uncover. Rachel agreed. "There's no way your mom came up with this on her own," she said. "And Nathan's dad? He's never even liked Ashley. So why risk everything?" Good question. That afternoon, while I was at Rachel's apartment sipping chamomile tea because sleep was still elusive, an email came through from Jeremy. Subject line: "You'll want to see this." Attached was a copy of an old email chain he'd dug up from a cloud backup Nathan clearly hadn't scrubbed properly. It was between my mother and his mother. I blinked. I hadn't even considered her part in this. Nathan's father was always the big power player, cold, sharp-suited, old-school businessman. His mother had always seemed sweet, soft-spoken, the kind of woman who baked cookies for charity events. But there it was, in black and white. We'll guide the girls toward an arrangement that benefits both families. If necessary, Ashley can provide a backup option. Nathan is fond of her. She will not resist. My blood ran cold. Rachel leaned over my shoulder, reading aloud. Oh my God. They planned this. From the start. It wasn't just a fling, not a spontaneous betrayal. I'd been set up. Rachel sat back, shaking her head. Looks like your mom and his mom were the real puppet masters. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Ashley, I whispered. She didn't just fall into Nathan's arms. She was steered. Suddenly, so many things made sense why Ashley had started showing up more. Why my mother kept pushing me toward wedding dates, guest lists, honeymoon destinations, all with Nathan's mother's suggestions. They'd been maneuvering us all like chess pieces. And when Ashley's affair started, instead of stopping it, they'd allowed it, maybe even encouraged it, as a backup. I sat there stunned. Part of me wanted to march over to my mother's house that very second and demand answers, but Rachel grabbed my wrist. Think, Em, she said. You've already exposed the affair. You've already tanked the wedding. But this is deeper, bigger. If you play this right, you can burn the whole rotten game to the ground. I swallowed hard. She was right. So I waited. Instead of charging in, I called my lawyer first, laid out everything I knew. He nearly choked on his coffee. Emma, this is massive, he said. If you want to pursue it, there could be serious financial and legal fallout. Not just for your mother's company, but for Nathan's family too. Good. But before I could act, a letter arrived. Handwritten. No return address, just one line on the envelope. You still don't know everything. Inside a single sheet of creamy paper. No signature, no clue who sent it. Just 6 words. Ask Rachel about July 14th. I froze. July 14th. Why did that date make my stomach twist? I looked up at Rachel holding the note. Her face had gone pale. She met my gaze, and for the first time since this whole nightmare began, she looked guilty. What happened on July 14th? I asked slowly. Rachel swallowed hard, and suddenly I wasn't sure I was ready for the answer. The room went still. Rachel's eyes darted to the floor, her shoulders tensing. Rachel, I repeated more firmly this time. What happened on July 14th, Tim? For a moment, she didn't answer. Then she let out a long, shaky breath. Emma, I didn't want you to get hurt, she began. Start talking. Rachel sank into the chair across from me, fingers gripping the edge of the cushion. Her voice dropped low. Back in July, remember when you and Nathan had that big fight about the Mexico trip? I nodded slowly. It had been one of those dumb arguments about whether we should postpone a vacation because of Nathan's supposed work obligations. He'd ended up flying to a conference alone. At the time, Rachel continued, I thought he was going to the conference, I swear, but her voice cracked. A week later, I overheard something at that bar downtown, the one where his office crew hangs out. Nathan was there, drunk, loud, telling one of his buddies how he'd gotten away for a weekend with the prettier sister. My blood ran cold. Rachel looked up at me, guilt shimmering in her eyes. I should have told you then, but, you were so excited about the engagement, you'd just sent out the save the dates. And I cut her off, voice trembling. You knew for months, and you said nothing. Tears welled in Rachel's eyes. Emma, I thought it was a one-time thing. I thought it was just a drunk mistake. And honestly, after what your mom and his mom were doing behind the scenes, I was scared. I didn't want to be the one to ruin everything for you. The betrayal stung. Of all people, Rachel had been my anchor through this whole mess. And now to find out she'd been carrying this secret for almost a year. For a few moments, I couldn't speak. I couldn't even look at her. Finally, I rose from my seat. My voice came out low and hoarse. I need air. I grabbed my coat and stepped outside, the cool Seattle breeze biting against my skin. The city buzzed around me, but I felt like I was standing in a void. First Nathan, then Ashley, my mother, his mother, now Rachel. Every layer of my life peeled back to reveal more lies, more manipulation. Was there anyone left I could trust? I wandered for blocks, numb, letting the questions swirl in my head. Eventually, I ended up at Cary Park, our old college hangout spot. The skyline stretched before me, glittering against the dark. And there, sitting on a bench, was Jeremy, as if he'd known I'd be there. I figured you might want company, he said softly. For the first time in days, I didn't bristle. I sat beside him, exhaustion washing over me. Everyone's been lying to me, I whispered. Jeremy nodded. Yeah, but not everyone will keep lying. Some want to make it right. I turned to him. What do you mean? He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. This, he said, is from Nathan's cloud account. There's more. Financial records, emails, stuff that connects both families. I wasn't sure if you'd want to see it, but I took the drive with trembling fingers. Emma Jeremy said gently, "This goes deeper than just an affair. It was all about control. They wanted to shape your future for their own gain, but now you have the power to burn it all down." I looked out over the city lights, and for the first time since that awful night, I smiled. Not out of spite, not out of vengeance, but because I finally understood this wasn't just about betrayal, it was about freedom. I could expose them all, or I could walk away, start over on my own terms. No more strings, no more lies. The choice was mine. A week later, I mailed letters, one to Nathan's father, one to mine. No threats, no demands, just the truth. Copies of what I knew. A quiet warning, stay out of my life. Then I packed my bags, took an extended leave from work, booked a one-way flight to Vancouver, a fresh start. I left Seattle behind the scandal, the whispers, the wreckage. But as I boarded that plane, my phone buzzed one last time. An unknown number, one text. "We're not done yet." Ashley or someone else? I stared at the screen, heart steady. Whoever it was, let them come. Because now I was ready.